What up, K-Rugs, the sober dog, coming at ya. Got my new microphone, yeah. A little loose on my work shirt, but hey, gotta do what you gotta do, still gotta work. Relationships and sobriety. That's all I gotta say, because it's craziness. Some are phenomenal, two sober people who love each other and have a great relationship. Others are a complete disaster. Two people I'm thinking of specifically, boyfriend, girlfriend, started dating when they were each about 2 months sober. One relapsed, the other followed. They both got a bad batch and died 2 weeks later. It can be, you really got to work on yourself first. But let's talk about it. Hey, before we get started, I want to hear, what do you guys think? Do you think people should wait a year to get in relationships from recovery? Do you think people should wait 6 months? Do you think they should end relationships they had prior? If you like Soberdogs content, hit that like, that subscribe. I would really appreciate it. So let's get right into it. Dating in recovery. Now, many rehabs, many programs, many people, there's like this rule of thumb they always talk about. You shouldn't date your first year of sobriety. Some people agree, some disagree, some just blatantly don't care, some might be in a relationship prior, whatever. The point of that rule is this. When people or rehabs or sponsors or whoever say you shouldn't date your first year of sobriety, it's not that they don't want you dating, that they don't want you to have fun, to meet somebody, whatever. It's that when we are in our first year of sobriety, we are a mental disaster. We have so much years of trauma, addiction, bad relationships. We have so much stuff to rebuild, repair, work on, that they don't want you to add something that is a full-time commitment onto that plate. Whatever, relationships are a lot of work. People might argue that, but they are a lot of work. So they don't want you adding that on when you're trying to rebuild your credit, stay sober every day, hit meetings, go to your rehab, maybe get a new job, maybe find different friends, whatever. That's the point of it. My sponsor and a lot of people I talk to always said things like, I recommend that. I'm not going to hold you to it. What I would rather have is we talk about it, and whenever you're ready, maybe that's 6 months, maybe that's a year and 6 months, whatever. Now, when people hear that, people who are newly sober, myself included, heard that, like my first month of sobriety, you shouldn't be dating for a year. I was, what? You want me to go another 11 months and I can't, go nuts? It's not that. It's just, and now that I've been in recovery, for years now, I look at that and I see how important it actually was. And they're not trying to just tell me to not have fun. But now, if you had a relationship prior to your recovery, while you were in addiction, and you want to keep that going on, once you got sober, couple things I would bring up to maybe look at. The other person, most important. If I'm in active addiction and I'm dating somebody in active addiction and I get sober and she doesn't, there is no way on this planet that relationship is going to work, or vice versa. She gets sober and I don't. I'm sorry if you're dealing with that, but the truth hurts, but it needs to be said. That will not work, period. That person can tell you, I'm going to get sober, just give me a couple weeks, it's going to be this time, it's going to be when this happens, when we move, when I get this job. It will not happen. I would recommend not doing it until, I would say, tell that person something like, we will talk on your 6-month anniversary of sobriety about getting back together. Actions, you got to see the actions. And I would hope somebody would say that to me, because they could tell me all this, but I don't believe it until I see it. I know I was full of, I was a liar. And then also, if you try to do, if you're like, let's say a year sober, and you're trying to be with somebody who's like, tomorrow I'm going to start my recovery. You know how it is. Those first couple months are going to be a disaster, mentally, emotionally, physically. So you're going to most likely put your recovery on the back burner trying to help them the first couple months, and that could be a disaster for you to relapse. Another thing to consider, I've seen this happen multiple times, is two people, either they had a relationship prior, they just start one brand new, like they're both, around a month sober, let's say. 5-6 months in, one relapses, the other one is right there. It's going to be a huge trigger for the other one to relapse. The person they love relapse. They're watching the person they love do drugs. They're an addict themselves, so now they're seeing drugs or alcohol or whatever it is right in front of them. And depending on the other person, they might actually try to convince their partner to relapse too. Not that they're a terrible person, but misery loves company. I had a girlfriend during active addiction. We dated strictly, we met during active addiction. It lasted all during active addiction, and we broke up both in active addiction. But there was so many times one or the other would, all right, I'm done. I'm quitting. Tomorrow is it, blah, blah, blah. Yes, good for you, this and that. And halfway through the next day, one of us would be, trying to stay sober, willpowering it, knuckling it. And the other would be, all right, I'm leaving for a little bit. We know where they're going. They're going to get high. And as soon as they come back, let me get some. And this would be this cycle of one day or 1 week I'm trying, I'm staying sober, and she uses. And then the next week it's her doing it and I'm using, and we just trigger and pull the other one back. It doesn't work. It's a mess. When somebody stops doing drugs or alcohol, there's this gap that they have in their heart, in their brain, in their body. I mean, it is literally like breaking up with a lover. Some people have got pissed when I've used that example, but I don't care. It's accurate. When somebody uses drugs or alcohol every day for a decade, 2 decades, whatever, 3 years, and then all of a sudden you stop, it is like breaking up with a girlfriend or boyfriend or fiance. It is like losing a loved one to death. I used heroin and cocaine every day for almost a decade, well, a little bit less than that, and all of a sudden one day I'm not. Those things are implanted in every part of my life. Everything I did, happy days I got high, sad days I got high, good days, bad days, before work, after work, birthdays. So all of a sudden stopping that thing, it's this like huge, just kind of in life, you're just like, whoa. So the same thing goes right into relationships. We try to fill the void of not having the drugs and alcohol with a girlfriend or boyfriend. It's like, all right, I'm in sobriety. I might be kind of lonely. Maybe I don't have my same friends because they're out still using. I got all this work to do. I want something to cling to attach to fill that hole. Oh, a girlfriend would be great. The problem with that is when we do that, we kind of focus all our energy now on the relationship and the other person and neglect our recovery. I really think it's a great idea for any and every person in recovery for a minimum of 8 to 10 months to not have a relationship, unless they were in one prior and the other person is like really good. A husband or wife who didn't use or wasn't a drinker or whatever. People might go different ways on that, whatever, that's just my opinion. But the first 12 months, I'd say first year of sobriety, I had to work on me. I had to figure out what was wrong with Kyle. Why did Kyle use drugs every day? Why did Kyle run from all these problems? Why did Kyle have so much emotional damage? Why did Kyle have mental stuff going on from the concussions in football? Without a girlfriend, I was able to focus on that in rehab, in meetings with my sponsor and all that other stuff. And then when it was about a year and I was a lot better mentally and understood myself and my addiction more, then I could start putting my energy into a relationship. So that's just a little bit of some of the relationship stuff that I see with a lot of people I work with in recovery, and stuff I've went through too, because I hate to say it, it's sad, but I've just seen so many people relapse. Two specifically I'm thinking of are dead, boyfriend, girlfriend, because one or the other relapsed because they jumped into a relationship 2 months into recovery with somebody else who really wasn't ready. Neither were ready, in my opinion, but they kind of wanted to fill that void. It's hard, it sucks, but it's essential to living a good, healthy life. It really is. And a good long-term recovery. All right, K Ruggs, the Sober Dog, and I'm out.